So
That was the moment when Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa became the substantive governor of Ondo State. His swearing in was in line with the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, following the passing of former governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu. The Akoko Conference Hall of the governor's office in Akure was filled to the brim as Ondo State began another journey in its history. Aiyedatiwa, who expressed sadness over the death of his principal, described it as a monumental loss.
the demise of Arákùnrin Olúwarótìmí Akeredolu SCNCUL is indeed a great loss to me as an individual. Governor Akeredolu was a man of courage and conviction, who always stood for the truth and even at his own detriment. I remember vividly during the time when we had a case in court challenging our second-term victory. He still pursued the matter of emplacing a strong security network for the people of the Southwest. The people of Ondo State and the entire people of the Southwest will be eternally grateful for his bold act, which has greatly improved the security architecture in the region and reduced incidents of kidnapping, banditry, and other acts of criminality to the barest minimum, especially in Ondo State.
While eulogizing the former governor, Aiyedatiwa promised to sustain his impactful governance in a bid to promote overall development of the state. He reassured the people of the state of his resolve to promote their welfare while making them the focal point of his administration.
We have the onerous responsibility to continue to sustain the legacies of Arákùnrin Olúwarótìmí Akeredolu SCNCUL, which was good governance, properly called. Our leader and governor, during his time, embarked upon several landmark projects, many of which have been completed and several ones ongoing. We now have the responsibility to complete them. It is necessary for us to acknowledge with pride the wonderful achievements and legacies of Arákùnrin Olúwarótìmí Akeredolu SCNCUL.
Aiyedatiwa thanked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the leadership of the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC) at both national and state levels for the unwavering support for the state. He becomes the 7th civilian governor of the Sunshine State. Wahab Bankole, Osrc News.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has described the death of Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu as a great loss to the nation. The president, who said he received the passing as a huge shock, said Governor Akeredolu was a brother, confident, and political soulmate. Tinubu, who said words failed him, affirmed the impactful life of Akeredolu in the area of promoting peace, equity, and justice, and his strident advocacy against injustice in all facets of life. President Tinubu acknowledged the contributions of Akeredolu in the nation's security architecture, which birthed the local police in the Southwest. According to Tinubu, the death of Governor Akeredolu is a blow to the All Progressives Congress, the nation, Ondo State, and its people, and pray that the departed soul will have eternal rest. In the meantime, the Ondo State Governor, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has approved the appointment of 5 aides, according to a statement signed by his Deputy Chief of Staff, Mr. Ebenezer Adeniyo. His appointments is appointed as Chief Secretary, Mr. Smart Omodubi Jr. as Special Assistant to the Governor of Political Matters, while Mr. Abire Sunday Olubenga is now a Special Assistant to the Governor on New Media. Others are Ms. Motunrayo Oyedele as Special Assistant to the Governor on Photography and Dr. Temitayo Ikperepolu as Special Assistant to the Governor on Domestic and Government House. Their appointments take immediate effect. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has directed 4 directors to proceed on terminal leave. The National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Sam Olumekun, said the decision followed a directive by the federal government through a circular issued on July 27, which approved the implementation of a policy mandating all directors with 8 years or more of service to retire from the public sector. According to the circular, clinical officers in the medical cadre are exempted from the policy. The federal government has ordered for immediate release of humanitarian relief to the communities affected by the recent attacks in Plateau State. In a statement by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, the federal government strongly condemns the recent killings in Bokos and Barkinladi local government areas of Plateau State. The minister explained that the federal government acknowledged the deep pains being felt by all the victims of the attacks and pledged to scale up collaboration with and support of state governments in the collective task of ensuring lasting peace and security in Nigeria. The Governor of Ondo State, Honorable Lucky Orimiso Ayedatiwa, has announced a 3-day period of state mourning in honor of the late Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Odrayo Akeredolu, former Governor of Ondo State, who died in the early hours of Wednesday, December 27, 2023. A statement by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Ondo State, Ebenezer Adeniyo, said a period of mourning with fasting and prayers takes effect from today, Thursday, December 28, to Saturday, December 30, 2023. Also, all national flags are to be flown at half-mast in reflection of the mood of the state for 7 days. The governor also announced the suspension of state government ceremonies during this period of mourning. Meanwhile, condolence registers have been opened at the governor's office and the government house in Akure, as well as state liaison offices in Lagos and Abuja. Let's now join our reporter Zaid Aribisala for more updates.
It's the morning after the news of the demise of Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolu came to public knowledge, and quite a number of things have since taken place within the corridors of power in Ondo State. Part of that is the declaration of a state mourning by the Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa following that news in honor of the departed Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolu. The state mourning will include a 3-day fasting and prayer, and also the directive that flags should be flown at half-mast across the state. Currently, I'm at the seat of government, which is the governor's office right here in Alagbaka, axis of Akure, the Ondo State capital. And the mood at this particular location still carries the weight of the departed former governor of Ondo State. And just at the entrance to this complex, you find the picture of the former governor and a condolence register already opened in his honor. And we've seen quite a number of persons also coming here to put down their condolences for the departed Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolu. part of where we have also been to this morning, some strategic locations like government offices, even private organizations, you find the Nigerian flags flying at half-mast at this time to depict the sad incident that has happened in Ondo State. You also find the flags of some organizations also accompany that of the Nigerian flag flying at half-mast at this time, all just to depict the mood currently in the state.
Moving on, almost a week on from the general election in the Democratic Republic of Congo, only a fraction of ballots have been counted. The vote was marked by delays and concerns about its credibility. The opposition wants the results of the presidential vote annulled and is planning protests. Tolulope Oyebode has details.
Intense moments at the opposition party headquarters in Kinshasa. Some presidential candidates have rallied their supporters to reject election results which have been tallied by the Electoral Commission. Police cordon off the area. A few young men want to stage a march on the street.
No one is above the law. We informed authorities about the protest. That is why the police are supposed to be here to protect us. If they are here to attack us, we will resist and defend ourselves.
Several people, including police officers, are injured in the confrontations. Finally, this man comes out of the building waving a white flag. He has a message for the police. The organizers agreed to a truce so they can take the injured to the hospital. Martins Fayulu has been inside the whole time. He says security forces used live bullets.
And this is not an election anymore. We will not accept the election and will never accept the result coming from there.
Opposition supporters say this is just the beginning and they won't stop until their voices are heard. Tolulope Oyebode, Osrc News.
Thousands of Argentinians have been rallying in Buenos Aires against sweeping economic reforms proposed by right-wing President Javier Milei. He sends a bill to Congress that will scrap more than 350 regulations in a bid to combat the country's economic crisis. Olumide Adeluwoye has details.
Thousands chanting in the streets of Buenos Aires against Argentina's new president, Javier Milei.
It's the second protest against him this month, and Argentina's powerful trade unions promise it won't be the last.
We will continue to fight for our rights. We'll protest on the streets and, if necessary, we'll call for a general strike.
Since it took off 2 weeks ago, Milei has been taking measures to cut public spendings. Last week, he announced a mega decree that, among other things, would reduce subsidies to public transport and electricity, allow healthcare providers to raise prices, and make it easier for companies to fire workers.
A bus ticket will cost 800 pesos, 10 times more than it costs now. That we still have government subsidies. How will a worker afford going to work?
But the president has already warned Argentine that there is no other way. He says the state is bankrupt and things will get worse before they get any better. Trade unions and social organizations says Milei cannot govern by decree. While they were protesting, Milei sent a bill to Congress declaring an economic emergency until December 2025, giving the president more powers to adopt market-friendly reforms. Political analyst says the president has little time to make good on his promises of change.
Argentina is facing a 1% daily inflation, where half of the population lives in poverty. His biggest challenge is to reduce inflation while his popularity is still high.
The question now is how long Argentines are willing to wait for better time. Olumide Adeluwoye, Osrc News.
The thing I remember is just people out on the streets in pajamas, crying, some with small children. I saw people wandering the corridors with their possessions in bin bags with no idea where to go. These are the images which have stuck with Nathan and Josh from the night they and their neighbors were forced to leave their homes. They are just the latest victims of the post-Greenfield building safety scandal. Kemisola Ojomo has more on this story.
This used to be home to hundreds of people, but in October, after years of concern over flammable cladding, residents at Skyline Chambers were suddenly given hours to take what they could, leave the rest and get out.
I actually saw people in pajamas with a small suitcase actually crying outside the building.
They've been friends and neighbors for 8 years, but Josh owns his flat, so he's been given accommodation until it is safe to return, while for renters like Nathan, the temporary housing will end in the new year.
I feel hurt more than anything that I found out that they were going to make over 100 people homeless 2 weeks after Christmas. After 18 years living in Manchester, with the rents as they are now, on a single wage I can't afford. So I'm having to look outside of the city centre now.
And the landlords who rent out their flats fear financial ruin while the building is empty.
The rent I receive is about £1,100 a month per apartment, so £2,200 a month I'm down, what best part of 25 grand a year. Now, Wallace Estates will not confirm whether they're going to cover those losses.
A spokesperson for Wallace Estate said they took immediate action to relocate all residents, and neither leaseholders nor freeholders are responsible for the existence of fire safety defects at Skyline. But Skyline is not unique. Since the Grenfell fire, 38 buildings have received prohibition notices for that is more than 9,600 people forced out of their homes. But there has been a spike in the past year, and campaigners fear that they will only rise.
The regulatory authorities have sort of reached the end of their rope, if you like, the end of their patience, waiting for these buildings to be made safe. So that leads us down a path of having to evacuate buildings to put them right.
A spokesperson from the Department of Housing said freeholders have a legal duty to ensure the safety of their residents. We've been clear that they need to get on with the job of remediation, because every day they delay is another day the people can get back into their homes. The tragedy at Grenfell has posed a colossal fire safety crisis in housing, and as the years drag on and thousands of buildings remain unfixed, it is feared more and more people could find themselves suddenly homeless. Kemisola Ojomo, Osrc News.
On May 30, the United States accused China of intercepting one of its spy planes in an unnecessarily aggressive maneuver over the South China Sea. The American RC-135 plane, according to the U.S. military, was conducting routine operations over the sensitive waterway when a Chinese fighter jet flew directly in front of its nose. While the two countries were able to de-escalate tensions then, there are worries that a similar mishap today could widen a bigger conflict due to the deterioration in relations between the superpowers. The U.S. views China as the biggest challenge to the Western-dominated international order, pointing to Beijing's rapid military buildup, the biggest in the peacetime history, as well as its claim over the self-governed island of Taiwan and in the East and South China Seas. China's embassy in Myanmar has asked its citizens to leave a border district in Myanmar as soon as possible over security risks. Thursday to evacuate the Lukia area in the Konkan region along the country's shared border came as Myanmar's military government has been battling ethnic minority rebel groups in what has become its biggest challenge since it seized power in a 2021 coup. Clashes have raged since October across Myanmar's northern Shan state after the Arakan Army, the Mandarin-speaking Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, and the Ta'ang National Liberation Army launched an offensive operation against the military. The rebel groups have seized several towns and border hubs vital for trade with China. India's government has used the highly invasive Pegasus spyware to target high-profile journalists, according to a new investigation by Amnesty International and the Washington Post. The findings published on Thursday noted India's repeated use of Pegasus against journalists, including one who was previously a victim of an attack using the same spyware. Created by Israeli firm NSO Group, Pegasus can be used to access a phone's messages and emails, peruse photos, eavesdrop on calls, track locations, and even film the owner with the camera. Head of Amnesty's Security Lab, Doncha O. Kabel, said journalists in India increasingly face the threat of unlawful surveillance simply for doing their jobs, alongside other tools of repression, including imprisonment under draconian laws, smear campaigns, harassment, and intimidation. And with that story, we've come to the end of Word at Noon. Many thanks for watching. Good afternoon.